K Weekly. Joey, good to see you.
State of the dudes.
State of many things. Let's see. So for folks who are seeing this the first time, because I just started streaming to LinkedIn, and hopefully that is working, and haven't seen kind of Nick Ox or Joey or Gristle King before. Quick explanation: Gristle King is an exploration development company focused on finding science and technology niches and pushing out a little corner of human knowledge in those places. So this year it looks like it's going to be exercise sleds and weather balloons, or pico balloons, but that could and probably will change. Most weeks you'll see my buddy Joey Hiller from Nova Labs on here, and we usually talk about the Helium, LoRaWAN, and any other projects that either of us are working on. So I think that's a decent enough intro for folks who may not have seen any of our stuff before. Let's see if there's anything in the public chat. Okay, so Joey, the news that I got this week is my little vacuum lab is coming together. I had this idea a while ago. I think we talked about it, that I could simulate a little corner of maybe not outer space, and probably not past the Kármán line, but up at the 50 to 100,000 foot altitude area. So -70 Celsius and in that 50 torr area. And I could just do that in my garage by buying a bunch of older stuff, not worrying about cutting edge technology, but just simulating the environment. And then testing these little boards for pico balloons, as well as testing some pico balloon stuff. So I think the last time we talked was pre-Christmas. I think.
Who knows?
Yeah.
It's lost.
I don't think we did one. We didn't do one last week because I was at CS, and I don't think we did one.
Yeah, I think you're right. Maybe we snuck one in there and somewhere in between, but yeah.
So I think I started ordering stuff on the 30th of December, and then I think I've ordered everything I need by now, and most of it is either arrived or in the mail. But super exciting. There's a little corner of my garage that's turning into a little corner of space. So
that's cool. So it showed up. It's all working.
A lot of it showed up and didn't work. So I've been using eBay's very generous and protective buyer policy to say, hey, this thing that you said was working is not working. And everyone so far has been like, dude, I just refund your money. Most of them, I think there's probably a scam in this that I will not be participating in. But because the buyer policy is so strong, most of them just say, like, don't even bother returning it. So if you wanted to be a complete shitbag, you could buy stuff on eBay, complain that it didn't work, and most of the time, so far in my experience, people just be like, just keep it. It's not worth sending back.
Yeah. I used to sell, I try to like list something on eBay time to time, just clear stuff out of the garage. I've definitely had that hit me. I was just like, God, whatever. Like, you stole my thing.
Yeah. I sold a thing one time that it appeared to me to be, it was working when it left my shop, and it didn't work when it got to the guy. But I was like, yeah, just send it back, because it was a couple $100. I'm like, I'm not gonna. Yeah. I'll pay the $20 shipping or whatever it was to bring it back, so that at least I.
So what's? I saw this big box that you got as the actual compressor sucker vacuum thing, right?
Yeah.
Is there more stuff that you had to get to like get the? I guess I imagine there's filters and all sorts of other stuff.
It just doesn't end. And I want to talk to someone about vacuum. I think I'm going to talk to our mutual friend Vortal about vacuum, because he does a bunch of vacuum as part of his work. But if you think about it, you need the pump. And so for the pump, I have an Edwards RV3, which is called a roughing pump. And in vacuum world, there's rough vacuum, which is atmosphere down to, I think, 1 torr. And then there's high vacuum, which is 1 torr down to, I forget if it's milli or micro. I'll betray my ignorance here. But basically, there's high vacuum, which is this much more vacuum. And then I think there's hard vacuum after that, which is absolute vacuum. These are just things I'm learning, which is like part of the rad stuff doing this. So the Edwards just goes to rough vacuum. So atmospheric, which is 760-ish torr, down to 0. Or down to 1, sorry. So that came in. That's a heavy piece of kit. But you also need a chamber to suck the environment out of. And then you need a way to connect your vacuum to that chamber. And then you need all of these other things. You need a filter to protect the vacuum pump. You need, and that could be a chemical filter. So if you're extracting or whatever gases, or it could be what's called a cold trap, where you put a bunch of dry ice or liquid nitrogen in this thing. And so anything that evaporates off or boils off gets caught in the cold trap before it goes through your pump. And then apparently on the exhaust side of the pump, you need another filter to stop oil or I don't know, God knows what getting out. Like there's all these things.
Hmm.
And then there's a shitload of fittings. So there's the vacuum setup I'm using is mostly KF25, which is just a little 1 inch hole. And there's really specific ways that it has to go together. And from the YouTube videos I've watched, you lay out these people lay out like a sheet of tinfoil and they clean everything with alcohol and they put the
Oh yeah.
flanges together, etc. So there's like three main parts: the pump, the
Oh,
vacuum pump.
these are like this is like kitchen looking stuff. It's like those cam fit, like flush surface.
Yeah, yeah. I should probably have some more pictures. All I have pictures of for today's show is the sled. But yeah, there's just so many things, and then there's the gauge itself. So that's probably the third thing. So there's the pump, the chamber, and then the gauge, and then the fourth thing is the million fittings and pieces and bits and T crosses and bellows and blah 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 that you need to put all this shit together. And the gauge turned out to be a problem. I thought that I could do this really old school technology, and I bought these Granville Phillips 275 gauges and sensors and wires and all the rest of it, and none of it worked. I bought a couple of them on eBay, and they got here and didn't work at all. And it just turns out the technology is so old that most of the time it doesn't work, at least in my experience. So some super vacuum guy or girl watching this might be like, "No, it's just you're an idiot." Also possible, but I couldn't get it to work. So I'm switching over to one called an MKS 901P, which is a Pirani gauge and a micro Pirani. A lot of this stuff is I don't have it off the top of my head. So super cool, like because then and you need to know what the vacuum is. And then it turns out you can use a vacuum chamber for a bunch of different things. Now I've got two vacuum chambers. One is a clear 10-liter chamber. And that you can use for any kind of non-temperature related stuff. So if you just want to pull vacuum and you don't care about going down to negative 70 C or up to whatever the heat aspect might be, you can just use one of these vacuums. And then the other one that looks like it's delayed in the mail is the high vacuum chamber, and that has coils in it, so I can run nitrogen through that and go down super cold.
Or warm too, or is it just for cold?
I think you can go warm as well.
Okay.
There's been so much to learn that I haven't investigated the parts that I don't need to know.
So we're going into paleo freeze dried treats here soon.
So I was chatting with ChatGPT, which has mostly steered me right, although I've just found that when it recommends equipment, usually that equipment is more than 10 years old. And I think that's just a function of how, like, I don't know, it was trained.
What it learned about, yeah.
Yeah. Which is slowly getting pounded in my head. Like when it recommends something, I should then go on Google and say, what's the modern version of this? And then buy that thing.
Huh. Yeah.
So yeah, I was talking with ChatGPT or I think it was GPT yesterday and saying like, what else could I use this for? It's like, oh, you can, for the potheads, you can put extract in it. I just don't know that much about pot, but you put whatever it is you're pulling off, and Vortal will laugh at this, off of,
I grew up in Humboldt County. I know exactly how all this stuff works.
okay.
Never
I
done
didn't
it
know anything
myself,
about
but
this.
they basically teach it to you in high school.
Nice. Yeah. I didn't know anything about this, but basically you put whatever the stuff is in your chamber, and because when you pull vacuum, it lowers the boiling point. It's my understanding is that you can gently boil off a bunch of the quote bad stuff, and then you have a much purer, I don't know, extract or tincture or whatever it is it's called. So, yeah, funny that you know all about this.
Yeah, I've seen it in people's garages and you name it. So
Yeah.
yep.
So that's been, I don't know, the whole thing has just been fascinating to learn about and figure out.
Yeah. No, it's like a powerful tool. I have a vacuum sealer, but it's a chamber vacuum sealer, and I've used it for a couple little experiments, but I run up against the size constraint. So your 10-liter thing, like that sounds like a power tool already.
Yeah.
Because you start
I'll
doing
see
your
if I've got
degassing resins and like you do carbon fiber, all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah, there's all kinds. I mean, that's one of the things that I've been trying to figure out is like, what else can I use this for? Because it's cost me a lot of money, more than I thought that it would. And I felt like once I got into it, I was like, all right, this is going to be $1,000, and it turns out significantly more than that. But once I'd spent kind of the first part, it's like, well, you can't get most of the way with vacuum and be like, I'm just going to skip that one thing. And I feel like the core thesis of having this thing available to test atmospheric conditions is strong enough that it's worth spending the money I've spent. So
Yeah.
let's see if
So
we
I
can
guess
go ahead.
probably worth a recap on the atmospheric conditions part of it. Have you pushed on the sensor deployment side much? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so one of these, probably the one on the right, is the 10 liter. Maybe they all look pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the sensor
What are they doing in
deployment
there?
side. Oh, did I need to stay on there
Well,
longer?
they've got little dishes in there. What are they doing? What are they
Yeah,
cooking up?
God knows what. I can put this back on so that anyone watching this who might be interested could pull these part numbers. I forget which one I have, but whatever. F42, 400, 2021, 2041, 2121, etc. So on the hardware side, I have totally different news. Is I went out to CES, and I probably could have pulled a bunch of video from that because there's dancing robots everywhere, and that was pretty interesting. But I didn't. But it had just so happened that the dude that I was considering hiring was also at CES, and so we met up for half an hour and kind of talked through it. And I decided, like, oh, I'm gonna hire this guy. He's awesome, RF engineer out of Eastern Europe. And that was super cool to say, like, all right, this is how we're going to do this and go through it. And then I introduced him to as many LoRaWAN people as I could because he wasn't super familiar with LoRaWAN. And so we hung around the LoRa Alliance booth, and I was like, hey, talk to this person, ask him the questions that I can't answer. Go nerds.
Oh, yeah. You got it's an incredibly dense collection of knowledge there with those LoRaWAN folks.
Yeah. Yep. So I think he will be ready to start at the end of the month. And at that point, we'll solidify the contract and kind of kick it off and do the first part just to. I think he's under the impression that I'm not sure if this thing will work. And so we should find out if it works. And I'm like, no, we are going to make this work. That's how we do things around here.
Yep.
It may not work the way I want it in my perfect life, but we're going to make something work. So.
Yeah. Well, and so what is the work that he's engaging on? Are you trying to do that? You were talking about that sort of spider-looking antenna thing. Is that the goal there? Okay.
Yep. So the goal there is to be able to build a board that you can send up to between whatever 30,000 and now I'm making this up 120,000 feet. I think the original spec was 30 to 60,000, and that board will collect data and send it back down to Earth via a LoRaWAN. And those boards will be able to talk to each other. So there'll be something that, funnily enough, Google has already done or already tried to do with the Loon project, where they thought it would be pretty cool to have constellations of balloons floating around the Earth. But for whatever reason, they stopped doing it. And so I was like, well, if Google can't do it, I can certainly do it out of my garage. But the idea there is that good.
They had a lot of other things going on, those balloons. So
yeah.
A little heavier payload.
Yeah. So, and the payload on these is kind of under, let's say it's under 30 grams, and I'm aiming for 17 to 20. My buddy Greydodge, who is on the GK Discord server, has already designed one of these things, and I think his came in at 17 grams as well. And so we've been going back and forth on how the best way to do it. But the end result, or the desired end state, is that we have a little thing that you can order, probably through Medio Scientific or crystalking.com or whatever, that you can buy. And if you're a STEM program, you can send this thing up to space and or send this thing up to altitude, and it will fire back packets, ideally every half hour during the day. And then we have to figure out how we handle it at night, because there's just no available energy other than the sun up there. And because it's so cold, it's very difficult to store energy overnight. So I visited a battery manufacturer booth at CES called Nichicon, and they do LTO, I think lithium titanate batteries. And they were saying it was good down to negative 30 C, but the capacitance is lower. God, I get all these terms mixed up. I can't remember if it's lower or higher, but worse. The colder it is, it's the worse it gets.
Yeah.
And they were saying it'll still work at negative 70, but it just won't work well at all. And so what I would like is if either this thing fires off data every 6 hours at night, or whatever the kind of limit is, or it gathers data all night but doesn't spend the energy to push it out via a radio transmission, And then in the morning for the first hour or so, it just fires off everything. As soon as it has enough sun hitting the solar panels, fires off things every 5 or 10 minutes to say, this is what happened last night.
I mean, this taking it back to your vacuum chamber, I think this is where the testing is going to be really interesting, because you're in a thinner atmosphere, your convective losses are a lot lower. So you may be able to just hold enough heat, maybe, right, to kind of keep that battery happy overnight. Well,
yeah, maybe there's some stuff, and I was learning a little bit about conformal coatings, and then also stuff that you can coat the stuff in vacuum chambers, and that's one thing they're used for, is maybe there's some like insulative layer that holds in a little bit, but it's 20 grams, so there's like not enough thermal mass for me to think that would matter.
Yeah, that's the weight is the big challenge there.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any NASA folks who watch this who are into the aerogel world and you want to send me some aerogel to coat these things in that's super light, I'm all about it.
Yeah, I think you can just get that stuff on eBay. People make it. And...
Hell yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of my knowledge comes from the perishable shipping world, and the last time I really investigated that was probably five years ago. So maybe aerogel is now boring and normal now, but at the time it was like, yeah, this is hard to get.
Yeah. Huh. I don't know. Watch YouTube videos of people making it. So
yeah. Maybe this thing just gets sprayed in aerogel, and there's like this little kind of softball size of thing, and that stuff is super light, and so all of a sudden you have an insulated piece that RF can easily get through, but heat can't. And
right.
I think that is the kind of top of the show read that I did. Is I really think this idea of how do I find these little corners, these little areas of kind of scientific or technical knowledge, and push out a tiny little corner of it, not do like Einstein work where we change the world, but like, hey, no one really knew about this for whatever reason. And in my garage with a couple of experts, we can take this and just explain one little piece of it. That's super exciting.
Yeah. I mean, whether you're picking up weather or, yeah, you're in a realm that is beyond what I've looked at in any kind of depth. Yeah. So
me too.
It's kind of, it's kind of fun saying like what there is out there that can be measured and is of value and, or it has impact. Right. So,
yeah. O'Keen saying you can buy aerogel, but it's pricey.
Okay. Pricey.
Well, maybe we can make it. Joey's inspired me to make something new. Let's see. I've got news on the podcast. So Helium had sponsored this podcast for 6 months. I was supposed to do a show every week. I got sick one week, and then I went to CES, and I think I launched one that week, maybe not. But basically all the guests that I was trying to book dried up or shifted, or one guest recorded and then didn't like it. And so there's probably going to be last week or maybe this week and one more week where we just miss it. Foundation will still get the number of episodes they paid for and probably more, but it won't be as regular as I'd hoped.
Yeah, so. It's been fun sort of seeing the LoRaWAN community come together on the podcast. I think there's a lot of interest and excitement to tell a story, tell people what they're up to. It certainly seems to have made some connections for you. A lot of familiar faces when you're at CES.
Yeah, that part was cool. And it's also nice, I think, when I went to Barcelona, when we met up in May, everyone was like, oh, I've never heard of this thing. And this time people are like, oh, I've heard this podcast, or I watched or listened to a bunch of it or whatever. So I think it's just a matter of kind of continuing to push on the thing and saying, hey, this is what we're doing. I'm going to try and get the guys from Nichicon, the battery folks, to come on. And then I met this dude who seemed just like young and batshit crazy and awesome, who is doing super light solar panels. And so I think I can tie this in to say like, hey, for a lot of these devices that are coming on that are LoRaWAN devices, as rad as the technology of LoRaWAN is, there are these other aspects like power generation and storage that are part of it. What do you got going on there, buddy? No, stop due to media disconnect. Joey is under attack. I'm taking heavy fire on my position.
Technical difficulties. Am I back? Okay.
There's probably you're back. There's probably some cat that screwed this whole thing up.
That's my fault. Yeah, it thinks I'm gone. Okay, I think we're okay.
Yeah, I can see and hear you, so I think we're okay.
Yep.
Let's see. So that's the podcast stuff. Like I said, I'm going to get some folks who are like in the surrounding hardware world, so the energy harvesting and storage piece, I think is pretty important for just LoRaWAN in general to know about. Lee keeps telling me I should do longer shows. And I said, well, that was never the point. I want to do these like short 15-minute shows so that you have enough time to listen to it. And we try and pack a bunch of information in there. But she's also usually right about stuff. So maybe we'll experiment with some longer shows.
I told a friend the other day that, we wrap them up quick, and he's like, oh, that wouldn't work for me. I like a long podcast. But I think it's because he listens to them on an hour-long commute. So it's it's the time for it. But
yeah. Maybe
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'll experiment with it. I think that has been my method so far, is to try stuff and then the old Bruce Lee, discard what doesn't work, keep what does, and be like water. Okay, let's see. And then the last piece that I've got in my notes is I've got the sled stuff, which I can share a little bit about. I put a video up on...
So I'll do a little bit on my LED website thing too.
Oh, badass.
Yeah.
Do you want to do that now, or do you want to do the sled thing first?
Whatever you want to do. You're master of show.
I'll crank through the sled, and then we can devote time to you so it doesn't go back and forth. So worked on the sled. This is an exercise sled where you can now start to see what's actually happening. There's the back pulley between the wheels that turns. So as you push the thing, that back pulley turns. It goes forward to a really small pulley up on the front shaft here, and then that transfers over to this really big pulley that comes back to an alternator that'll be mounted in the back, over the back shaft. And so you'll be generating energy, and then by managing the field in the alternator, we can change the resistance on the wheels, and so you can push more or less hard on the thing. But we finally got this weekend this front structure tacked into place so that we can actually have the pulleys up there and see what it looks like. So pretty rad thing. And then on the back end, this is something related but different. I needed a way to test the way the sled will work, because it's got these giant supercapacitors and resistors and all the rest of it. And so I realized that I needed to be able to run a motor. And then as I started building the motor stuff, I was like, all right, I need a way to see if the motor is actually working the way it's supposed to. And so I hired this guy on Upwork to build me a little motor sensor array piece. And at some point, this thing will go up for sale. And I'll also be using it to test motors in my world. So
it's exciting.
Yeah.
Just like mapping out what's going on there.
Yeah, a little USB-C. There's some ESP32S3 stuff. There's all kinds of buttons and bullshit on here. So
plenty of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. And it's funny, the guy, so I feel kind of bad for him. He's an Egyptian dude, and I interviewed a bunch of people. He seemed like he's totally competent. I still think he's competent. But he'll send me something and ask me some super technical question. And I'm like, dude, that's why I hired you. Like, you have to know that stuff. You have to take my layman's understanding and translate it to make it work. And so what I started doing is I just took the PDFs that he would send me of the whole schematic and put them into Grok and be like, hey, is this guy doing what I'm asking him to do? And then Grok would say yes or no. And then I would basically say, give me translate that to a thing I can explain to this guy or pass on to this guy. And I'd send it to him and he'd be like, mostly okay with it, but partly like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Grok's trying to get fancy on you. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because you just realize how important it is to have context on a thing when you're dealing with an LLM. So here's the PDFs this dude would send to me, which, I mean, I can read English, so I can understand what ESD protection or RF power is. But for the rest of it, it's like, I don't have enough background to understand if whatever this thing here is actually right or wrong or something I need to pay attention to.
Sure. I found a lot of value in the open source hardware movement. Like the website has this library of all this stuff. And in most cases, it's generally very competent electrical engineers are contributing those designs. They go deep, they figure the thing out, they publish it. And so it's a pretty awesome reference to go and say, like, how did they approach, a boost converter, whatever, right? And there's probably 500 of them on there because it's, super common. I would hope not. But there's a bunch of takes on various problems and you can kind of see what's going on. So it's pretty helpful from a non-electrical engineer standpoint. Me And, you know, like what you're talking about, you understand the broad strokes of these things, so you can kind of pick up on the gaps. But,
Yeah, like I know what I want it to do, but
yeah.
I'm not sure how it's going to do. Oh, I got one more thing, and this is potentially a mistake I made, but I'm going to make the best of it. Is we had developed this bracket for these motors, and my buddy had done all the designing because I haven't figured out 3D design, and he's been doing the welding on the sled, and so I talked about this, and we developed this bracket so you can put these 56C motors in there. And then we've sold one, and we're like, all right, we sold one, like they will sell, let's order 10 more, because when you order 10, you get a pretty significant discount. And I was in Vegas when this happened, but he texted me, he's like, hey, I'm going to order 10 more. I'm just going to widen out the pilot circle by a little bit so it's easier to put the motor in. And I said, okay. And I should have said, don't do that, because the whole reason of the pilot circle being there is to make the thing even more solid. I can't tell if it's actually working or not, because the bolts that you see here are pretty big, thick bolts. And even when I'm kind of throwing this thing around by the handle, it's still like, it's not moving at all. So my suspicion is that the pilot circle doesn't really matter that much. Let me see if I can show a slightly different.
You know, the problem is that motor is going to do a whole lot more torque than your hands can do. So
Yeah.
That's when you find out.
Yeah. We'll see if that works or not. But so I said, yeah, sure. He ordered them, and there's like a 16th or a little bit more of space between the pilot circle and the steel. And so I put those up on eBay and said, like, hey, this is what we did. We widened it out so it's much easier to do, because otherwise you might have to grind out a little bit. I think I just made a mistake there, and we may have bought a bunch of motor mounts that no one else buys, but it's been interesting to learn about.
We can make a whole lot of sleds if worst case scenario, right?
Or I mean, this is just for the motor mount. So the motor is used to test the sled. So this won't actually get mounted on the sled. But I needed a way to kind of to simulate the spinning of the back pulley, and then see, like, all right, what happens when I spin it super fast and drive a ton of energy into this thing? Like, does my system actually work? And so this is just the test bench part of the system.
Got it. Okay, I thought this was like meant to go get welded in, and yeah. Okay.
No, I may have made a mistake by not paying enough attention, but it wouldn't be the first time.
Yeah.
What's your LED?
Fun tangent. Well, fun tangent on the Sen stuff. They sell metal now, so you can just go. They can just like straight up bill it for machining.
Huh.
So they just kicked off this little banana metals thing, and I'm gonna give it a little whirl on the CNC machine. See if I can make some parts. So what is this, like 1 inch by 2 by 4, and I got some other chunks over there.
Huh. And was
then
that
of course
something you couldn't buy at like a metal shop before?
You could, with all of the fun adventures of going to a metal shop, and this, to me, it ended up being a bit on the cheaper side. So it was the right price point for me, where I could buy a couple of pieces. I'm going to play around with it. You know, if there's more than I want to do, it can go deeper. I can go, make friends with the metal shop or whatever. And I'm sure, like, if I walked in and I was like, I need a 2 by, they'd be like, I don't know, $5. Like, take it. But
get over to the scrap bin, kid.
Right. Yeah. I think that the biggest piece I ended up with is, I don't know.
What are you going to make with it?
iPhone sized, I guess. I am not entirely sure, but my machine is not it's an XYZ coordinate machine. So I can't really go and do a whole lot of fancy stuff without a lot of really complicated setups. So I think for me, this is going to be like a bracket or a hook or whatever. So I can make some holes. I can even tap some holes if I want to. So I don't know, mostly just want to get my feet wet on playing around with some aluminum. Yeah. I'm feeling real confident on wood. Wood works. So I got to step it up and see what else I can do with the thing. Annoy my neighbors with the constant of aluminum being cut. So, yeah. And they of course gave me the banana for scale, which I thought was really cute.
What's the banana thing for? Is this like some part of their marketing?
So that's the classic like Reddit thing. If somebody posted a picture of something, I don't know what size that is. I need a banana for scale. So I don't know. There's probably some like know your name meme thing history to it. But they started this, and then they put a banana next to everything, so you know how big that actual chunk was. Because
awesome.
you see a block of aluminum, and without any sort of context, it's like that could be 4 feet wide. You know, no idea. So they called it banana metals. Stupid.
Nice.
It's fun. Yeah, fun stuff. Okay, LED. So depending on when we last talked, we were somewhere deep in sort of the holiday break. That ended up serving as a really nice opportunity for me to do a lot of physical labor during the day. And then in the evenings is sort of playing around with the new AI tooling. Finally, I've gotten into Claude Code, and it's great. It's fun. And you can kind of just throw a whole lot of stuff at it and learn how it works and sort of work within those bounds. So something that I've wanted to do for a really long time, this was like, I think an idea I had like a year and a half ago, which was just like, can I do a LED, like a LoRaWAN driven pumpkin for Halloween, where somebody could come to a website, see the pumpkin, change the color of the light in the pumpkin.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I may have talked about that at some point. And I've done various spikes on it, you know, built them out. But the latency on the connection was so high that you'd like press the button on the thing and you'd be like, did it work? Did it not? And then like, you know, 2-3 seconds later, the actual color changes because you need to see the thing that you're interacting with. And so what has changed this narrative for me is Cloudflare now has the selective forwarding unit capability stuff, which is basically it's a pipeline for you to go transfer data, namely video or audio or whatever. This is a neat rabbit hole to go down because you can start building multiplayer games and like all sorts of stuff. Like it's just video. Oh, wow. I accidentally pressed something on my keyboard.
I did this.
Oh, you did this. Okay. Yeah. I thought I did that. I was like, wow, that's my screen.
AI is listening.
Yeah. So
do you want to share? Do you want me to get out of here?
No. This is perfect. You can do a little clicking around. So people can go to this. I think your screen shares clipped it off a little bit, but it's my website, joeyhiller.com. I didn't know where to put it, so I just replaced. I haven't updated my website since like 2018, so it was I don't know. I was like, whatever, I'll throw it up there.
Oh wow, that works.
But yeah, it does the thing. So it's, you know, it's a little silly, but you can go in there, and when you change that color and you hit set color, I think the cool thing to understand here, and this at the top, there's the little like this site that explains this, but you are submitting a downlink into Medio Scientific, your LNS, and that is queuing up for this Quando Busy Light, which is a multicolor LED, and you can go, people use them for like conference rooms and all this other kind of stuff, right? Anytime you need some visual indicator. But it takes any color, and basically that's entering a queue. The Helium network is pushing that down through the gateway that I have here, or whichever one it's connected to, and then updating the color. And then the visual loopback, of course, is the webcam. So I set up a Raspberry Pi. The only work that I did on the Raspberry Pi was to load the Raspbian OS and set up SSH keys. Beyond that, everything else I handed to Claude. I don't think I touched a single line of code building this interface. And so this really pushes into that narrative of like, you can build things and treat them like Lego now. So like I found my video streaming Lego, I found my LoRaWAN Lego, I found my webcam, you know, right? And I just plugged all those things together and prompted to do the rest. And it did a very good job of it.
It's crazy. Yeah, that's rad.
Yeah. And this supports, I tried to pressure test this, posting it on Twitter and Reddit and all the stuff sort of first day, and it held up. And the crazy thing about it, you know, going back, we talk about our love for Cloudflare. Their free tier is incredibly generous. I haven't paid for this at all. This is still within their free tier for the video streaming, for everyone watching, for the website hosting, all that stuff. If you asked me about this 2 years ago, I'd be like, oh, this is somebody's $60 a month server.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Looks
pretty
like there
fun.
was someone jumping on there and clicking around while I was doing. Looks like there's a couple colors in the queue. So
yeah, that's not me.
Yeah.
And
this is just
here, I'll
you
do
said
one.
joeyhiller.com.
Yep. Oh, they turned it off.
Well done, people.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So this was one of a couple of sort of coding experiments. I also built some data credit on-ramp rails that basically got it to the finish line, and then Coinbase shut me down. I went and sort of like rage posted on Twitter, and they were awesome and got back to me and gave me a little bit more clarity on the hoops that I need to go through there. Basically, they don't like that my platform was pushing all of the USDC into a treasury wallet. They're like, you know, you're great, Joey, but we don't trust you that much, basically. So they like to see in the merchant processing that they work with, like to see those tokens going into a customer wallet. So I need to build a little bit more infrastructure there to support that, and then I can get that over the finish line, I think. But
nice.
Yeah, couple fun projects.
Hey, yeah, this is rad. It's cool to see it. It's cool to change. It's cool to see it changing. I'm not changing.
Yeah,
anything.
I'm not changing anything. Yeah.
Someone's out there getting after it, and that's pretty cool. Is it worth talking about the Medio scientific problem we had over the holidays? Or do we need to keep that generally secret? I think that's more or less in the public if you know where to look.
I think it only affected you because you were the only one that had an old OUI.
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay, so for folks watching, I'll just give the broad strokes that anyone could know. I don't think this gives anyone an advantage. But some complete jackwagon fuckhead decided that they would start burning a shitload of data credits through, and I don't understand exactly how it worked, but through the Medio Scientific Console, and they figured out a way to do it without paying for them, so that I was paying for them to burn DC through my console. And they did it in a way that was fairly tricky, and I had no idea how to fix it. And thank God Joey and Paul and a couple folks from Nova Labs came on, they investigated it, and I think it took a couple days and maybe cost me about $90, but it appears to be fixed. So the upside was that for about 3 days, I was the third largest consumer of DC credits on the Helium network. Or maybe the fifth or something. But it wasn't something I really wanted to hold a place for in the way that was being done.
Yeah, the annoying thing there is you were doing everything right with the operation of your LNS. You're using the session key filter, and your each device is sort of known by the network, so we can properly gate and control the traffic. Except for your old OUI, which still had some open routes, and it wasn't tied into the LNS. The LNS didn't know about it. So yeah, that was kind of what happened. So froze all those existing routes. I guess I could go back and nuke them for you, but great having Paul on, sort of doing some diagnosis there and do a little dig, and got that sorted pretty quickly.
Shout out to Bones for noticing it. Like, I don't pay attention to how much MetSci does, because most of the time people just buy data credits and it works.
That was the thing you noticed with the OUI notifier. You're like, this math can't be right, and I think it was.
I was like, Joe, your thing is broken. You're retarded. You
can't
And you're like, I'll look into that. But it was burning so many DC that I was like, oh, there's no way this is correct. But
yeah. That's the other thing we should give a little shout out for, is if you operate an OUI and you want notifications around your balances on a daily basis, also check out heliumtools.org. That's the spot where I'm sticking a bunch of this stuff.
Heliumtools.org. Let's see if we can get that to show up. Is that?
Yep.
On here?
I see it. Yeah. So yeah, OUI notifier, the data credits thing, I should put a little banner on there that says don't use this yet. It won't let you use it. It's fine. But yeah, there you are.
Cool. So now I've got 73.9 days remaining, and now it's at 67 per day. So it's gone down quite a bit.
Well, you're
like
burning
$3 a day.
you're burning at a rate of 67 cents a day. Yeah, there could still be something wrong there. So the tricky part about this is if somebody is funding your OUI in the period where I'm polling, I'm not tracking the distinct burn events. I'm actually just tracking the overall balance. So if you are feeding it in between there, my interpretation of the rate is going to be different, right? This chart actually does track the burn events, which is a better way to do it. And maybe I'll go rework my thing to do that, but I was just being conscious of cost around oh yeah, you're burning 60 something cents.
60 cents a day, yeah. So just over Lone Star tracking, which Tom, that can't be right because Tommy's burning a shitload.
He's got 2. That's his old one. Yeah, he's way up the top there. 35.
35 bucks. Like, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, helium.datamatters.io. That's pretty cool.
Yep. Those are the guys in Germany that have been doing a bunch of municipal stuff. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And crushing and track pack. Neil's beating me again. Damn it.
Neil's cooking. He's been busy.
Awesome. Yeah. I think we're all, it's funny. These are such small numbers, but we're all doing pretty well with it. So.
And since we're on LinkedIn and some new audiences here, possibly, the ones that are labeled here, those are the folks that opted in. You can go submit your OUI on there's a well-known repository. I think it's linked in our documentation. And then it gets listed. Otherwise, a bunch of these that you're saying is blank are the people that either didn't know to do that or they just wanted to remain anonymous.
Yep. Yeah. So pretty darn cool. Let's see. Stop sharing. I think that's it.
I'm still seeing my light color change. It's fun.
People are getting after it.
Yeah, I guess I can share it. It is.
Oh, very cool. It's right there.
Oh, God, let me turn off the blurry mode. There we go.
Super blurry.
I can't see what I'm doing. Yep. There.
Oh, that's very cool.
So, just a webcam pointed at a pie. I changed color again.
Well done. Well done, people.
Yeah. And then I'll show off the busy light. I think I wish I could show it off more as a sensor, but that's the little guy.
It is what it is, yeah.
So yeah, it does the work. I wanted to fit my little stats panel in there, but didn't quite have room for it in the space that I gave us here.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah, I saw a bunch of this, the stats panel stuff. I saw like a bunch of e-paper stuff. I saw this thing, which I thought was super cool. I don't know if you can see it. Printed e-paper displays.
Oh, I have seen these. They're very cool. Yeah, I've talked with that company.
That looked like a really cool thing. Those guys didn't appear to speak great enough English for us to have a great discussion, but maybe it's just the dudes at the booth when I was there because they're out of BC, out of Vancouver, so I'd assume that their English would be flawless. But the folks that I talked to were not native English speakers.
Okay. But I think I chatted with them. All the conferences are blurring together. I can picture the booth. I don't remember what city I was in. So that's
crazy. Did. We should probably wrap it up. As when I was in Vegas, that as much as interesting as CES was, the highlight was going and hiking and finding these hidden pools with my buddy, and that was rad. We went up to Red Rock, and there's some pools up there that you have to know pretty much exactly where they are because they're in these deep cliffs. Maybe I've got a picture of it. And so like you can't just get up high and look for them. You have to know where they are because until you're within kind of 4 feet of the edge, you don't see them. It's pretty cool.
Wow. How'd you find out about these? Is this
a friend of mine?
Friend of a friend? Yeah. Okay.
Had taken me there and was like, "Hey, these are super cool." And I thought it was rad. And that was a couple of years ago. I was working this weirdo security gig for some. What was it? It was like a floral scent or perfume company, and they had a couple famous speakers who I'd never heard of, but I guess most chicks would know about them. And so I went out to Vegas to work for a week or something, just making sure everything went smoothly. And I was there. I was just like, I don't like this work. Here I'm finding the picture right now, and. But my buddy was like, when I was up there, I was like, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a long time. Like, let's go do something." He's like, "Oh, I've got a rad place to take you," and he did. So, Let's see if I can bring this thing up and show you. Beep, beep.
This reminiscing is reminding me. I did listen to 3 hours of that podcast that you did while I was hauling concrete in the rain. And it was just fascinating. You've had the life well lived. You've been busy.
Yeah. That was a funny thing. I guess this is the whole thing. It's just a giant screen. Yeah, like you don't see these things until you're basically standing kind of right above where my hair is. But if you're further back, it just looks like, because of the way the rocks are set up there, you just won't see it.
Yeah. Hot or cold? Like it just looks like cold, stale. Yeah.
Cold.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like 40. I would say this is high 40s. And there's a pool here that we waded through, and then we got and climbed up past this tree, and there's a higher pool there that we swam through, and then we came back and dunked our heads in here, and both of us were just hooting and hollering like dudes who are super cold.
Yeah. Me and cold water don't get along too well. So
no.
yeah.
But this is my buddy Vinny, and he had brought 2 enormous bath towels, and I'd made fun of him pretty much the whole way up. I'm like, why do you have that stupid big backpack for like 3 pounds of weight? And it turns out that Vinny, in his 50 some years on the planet, has picked up more knowledge about being comfortable post cold than I have.
Yeah. Well, cool.
All right. Well, I'm glad you got to listen to the Liberty Risk show. That was a fun. That was totally like I talked to Ryan about that at his birthday party. And he's like, "Dude, you got to come on the show." I was like, "Okay." Like I don't really touch that world anymore, but sure. And
I mean, those guys were kind of in awe. Some of those stories. I think there's an hour. I think I made it 3 hours in. There's an hour left. I was at the dump, and then I had to talk to people, and I had to take the AirPods out. So I'll get back into some work and finish that out.
What were you doing hauling concrete?
I have work to do on my house, so I had to haul close to 4 tons of concrete to a recycler. So it was just back and forth with the buckets in the mud and getting rained on. I was damp. I was basically muddy and damp my entire Christmas break.
Hell yeah. Yeah. It's a good place to be. A guy reached out to me on LinkedIn just recently. He's like, "Hey, I hope you had a great Christmas break." I'm like, "Dude, I'm not going to stop working." Like, it's so like I stopped for 2 days because I was so sick. I just sat on the couch, and that was laying on the couch. That was all I could do. But for the rest of it, it's like there's so much rad shit to do. I don't have time to take a break. It's crazy.
Yeah. I got into all sorts of fun stuff. So but anyway.
All right, buddy. Good to see you.
Go keep flashing the lights on my sign. I'll watch it. And then,
I will. And we'll see you,
I'll think about the next cool thing to do with something like that.
Yeah. Cloudflare. I mean, we could probably talk for another hour about Cloudflare, but they just came out with just some rad stuff. I thought I'd put the stats thing on the GK server.
Yeah,
that's open source. So, which
is super cool. But I'm sure there's going to be more projects to come. I've already got one in mind. We'll save it for next week. Maybe I'll build it. We'll show it off.
Yeah, we should build something together. We threatened to do it on the sled, but didn't get a chance yet. So let's make something together.
Yeah.
All right, dog. That should do it. I will see you next week. Thanks for tuning in, folks. We're out.